In the far future, faster-than-light travel is possible via portals called stiffworks. Human and alien civilizations travel this way for millennia. Trade, war, and technology proliferate. Countless societies rise, thrive, fall, and vanish. Eventually, almost everyone forgets the secrets of the stiffworks. Almost. 300 years ago, the worshipful company of Stillfleeters is formed on Spindle, a space station of unknown origin. They send fleeters into the void using stiffworks in search of profit. It is 100 million years in the future. Welcome to Float City.
Previously on Float City, Beta, Merkis, Remy, and Vynos are sent to Rigomont B, one of the two rocks that make up the Lovers, a pair of planets ruled by a mysterious and powerful trade lord known as the Saffron Anax. On Rigomont B, the team visits the estate of Boss Anverder Asa Toravolt Lehrer, a commandant of galactic renown nearing her final days, who has decided to return her war spoils to their rightful stewards. The team's refactor Algar instructs them to retrieve the Vasular multi-object, and to also grab whatever else they can along the way. The team procures the multi-object, but in the process, they also set free a number of the Anverder's prisoners, including an ancient, intelligent war machine named Nearer the Sun Than Is Advisable, a murderous void elf, a terrifying, dimension-traversing Illithnari, and a friendly Harajoon named Oat. Beta pilots and then pockets Nearer the Sun. The team befriends Oat and watches the freed Illithnari and the Anverder battle. Both of them die, much to the Void Elf's amusement. Saddled now with more valuable goods, mysterious alien technology, and archaea tech than they have ever seen, the team prepares to head back to town, where they'll tack to spin and file their report.
Before we go anywhere, just like assessing the situation and knowing we're in somewhat of a safe space, Beta would probably take account of everyone's health, since she's kind of the team healer, medic, therapist. Who's in the worst health?
I vote Remy.
I have a feeling Remy.
I have 20 out of 22 health. He's like fine. He just feels sick. If you have something for nausea, though, if you got anything, he looks visibly sort of like nauseous. So if you have any like space Dramamine, that would be tight.
Let's see what I have. I have anti-inflammatory pill-like bugs. They're called sun shadow aphids.
Aphids?
Aphids. I don't know what an aphid is.
It's a pest, in fact.
Hello.
She's looking right over Oat's.
Oat walks down a set of like little stairs out at the front door of the estate, and every time his knees bend, they go pop, pop. Sounds like he's stepping on little balloons. I'm doing all right over here, but if somebody's not going to eat those sun shadow aphids, I would not say a no to one. My joints feel like they are made of very thin glass.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like you've maybe had a day.
I've had a lot of days.
Or maybe not enough days. You've had one long day that kind of sped by.
Sped by. Oh, yeah, you could say that. Thank you so much for this. Crunch.
Yeah, you get a D8 health per dose, but you can only eat 2 per day before puking violently. So I just gave you one.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Merkis is looking at the Zog and looking at the packs and then counting, just like, I think we have only 4 Zogs here. Mr. Oat, would you like to share my Zog?
I am honored to ride on this creature with you.
Okay. And Merkis like hups, like leaning back on the back on his third boot and like hoists up.
Okay, yeah, you guys, does everybody mount up on their Zog and head out?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do I ride behind you? Do you mind do I hold on to the saddle? Help me out here.
I like to navigate.
Oh, do you want me to hold the Zog
I'll
reins?
be in front.
Okay, so you're driving and navigating. Aye, Captain.
Beta gives NTS a little kiss and puts it in her pocket.
It's like kissing a dense, very expertly chiseled rock.
Yes, she
kind
likes
of
that.
warm. Yeah, it's a little warm, but it doesn't react in any way.
Remy hops up and immediately passes out.
You ride your zogs back in the direction of the town that you arrived in. It, again, is, an hour and 45-minute, 2-hour journey, so you have a little bit of time. Remy takes a nap. Anybody else want to do anything of note on the way, or you just want to sort of zone out and think about your last 24 hours?
I mean, Merkis is just leaning forward and apologizing quietly to the Zog. I'm very, very sorry again. I know there's 2 of us now. There's 2 of us now, and I know that's more burden. I'm very, very sorry. Very, 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 very sorry.
Mike, I want to know how much Vynos would know about the Escher-esque blade. Is this something that's just completely mysterious to him and he wouldn't be very likely to use it without some experimentation? Or is this something he's like, oh, yes, an Escher-esque blade. Wonderful.
It is, it's questionable whether or not you have ever held one before, but I think because as a conscript and a tremulant, you have a relationship with the archive, that you would know what it is.
Okay.
So you saw it being used by the Illithnari twice. Even if you only knew about them by reputation, it is likely that at this point you're like, oh, that's one of those. That's an Escher-esque blade. I know what that is.
Okay.
I would say, so you would know also probably roughly what it takes to use it, which is that this is a very physically draining object to use. When you unfold it is sort of what it's called. You're kind of expanding its dimensionality. Like in the first episode, we talked about how it unfolded from a bone into a talon. And that's kind of like a metaphor. It's always occupying multiple dimensions at once. And when you quote unquote unfold it, you're asking it to focus on one dimension. And that is the dimension in which you then use it. And you know that use is difficult and that it requires a lot of concentration. And in game terms, this means that it costs 1d20 grit to use.
Whoa.
Okay.
And you have to pass a reason check of 9.
Wow.
I see. Oof. Okay.
But when you use it, you then open up a portal directly into the Escher-esque.
Okay. And then that means I can come out wherever I want?
It means that you enter into any point in the Escher-esque. Once you are in the Escher-esque, you can use it again to open up a portal back into 3 space.
Right.
But you cannot use it to go directly from 3 space to 3 space or from a point in the Escher-esque to another point in the Escher-esque.
So if I want to get to the Escher-esque and back, that's 2 d20s worth of grit.
And 2
pass a 9 reason check. Okay, that's good to know.
Yes, sir.
Okay, cool. So he just respects the object in his pocket and rides happily forth.
Nice. As you all continue riding over the flat brown vista of Rigamont B, as you get closer and closer to the town that you arrived in, you start to hear some sounds. It's dull at first. It sounds like people like having a celebration or having a party. It sounds like a lot of people are very excited about something. And so, you keep going and you can kind of see the town on the horizon. And when it starts to come into view, you realize that they're not shouting in celebration. They're shouting in terror and in pain. And you can see that the town is different in a lot of different ways. First, parts of it are on fire. There are some of the small wood construction buildings that you walked by and that you were in earlier are just completely aflame. You can see that there are these strange, gray, angular, you can't tell if they're rocks or buildings that are a little bit taller than most of the wood construction buildings that are there. They're new. They're like jutting up at these weird angles out of the ground. And some of them, it looks like, have grown through some of the buildings. You get closer and closer, and you see lots of other very strange structures. People are screaming. People are running around. And once you're sort of close up and within view of the town, you can sort of take everything in. You see that there are dead people on the ground. You can see that some of the villagers have just been killed. People are running around screaming, and a lot of them look different, and they look different in very strange and confusing ways. Some of them have hair for hands. Some of them, it looks like their heads are on upside down, so their chins are where their foreheads should be. Some of them have extra arms. You see one person who has just been turned into a block of granite, and spinning around in the air, whipping back and forth, laughing maniacally, is the void elf that you freed.
Oh, no.
Uh-oh.
At the edge of town, you can see also there is this very tall and broad-shouldered person wearing a long golden robe, and there's some bulky plate armor that is on top of their shoulders, and they're wearing a high kind of like crown or a tall hat that's also bright gold. You can see that the surface of these things are rippling in the wind, and they're pointing and they're barking orders, and they're shouting at a small detachment of armed riders and marines that are also running around the town, riding on zogs, going back and forth. They're wearing this like sort of similar designed armor. But it's like hard brass plate instead of this like long robe kind of thing. They're firing guns, they're discharging laser pistols, and they're trying to do whatever they can to do something to stop the void elf from causing complete and utter mayhem.
On the way, Merkis had been scribbling on the stylophone and was pretty much saying, "And then I dragged her shoe outside. Whoa, ma'am! Whoa, ma'am!" And is pulling on the zog. Do you see this?
As Merkis says this, the void elf sort of screeches to a halt mid-air, and it's in the weird battle armor that you saw it blink into existence in twice in the Anvader's estate. It's kind of like a mecha suit, except the bottom half of it is a black, spiny, almost flying saucer. It doesn't have legs. It's just like a dish with a bunch of weapons on it, and it careens to a halt mid-air, like it's just caught you. It sees you, flies over to you, and hovers directly in front of the group of you and says,
"What up, chuckle fucks?"
And then throws another grenade at your feet, and then zooms off. Everybody please roll initiative.
Oh, goodness.
Really? Chuckle Fox? Is that what he said?
He said
Yes.
Chuckle Fucks.
Chuckle Fox?
Is this our first initiative?
Initiative is just our movement, right?
Initiative is just your movement, correct?
Yeah. I was just like, oh, Shadowrun. Oh, how many dice do I have to add?
Hey friends, your GM Mike here to first and foremost say that we hope that you are staying safe and healthy. Second, the positive response to Float City has been so amazing. Thank you so much to everybody for joining us on this little diversion to 100 million years in the future. All of your excited messages and support for the first episode really meant a lot. And third, to say, you should go sign up for our Patreon. As a patron, you get access to our rad Discord, cut tape from every episode, bonus content, and more, all for as little as $5 a month. Patreon.com/Fun City Ventures. Get in on it. Appropriately, given the fact that it seems as though Merkis was the first one to notice the destruction and the Void Elf, Merkis, you act first. The Void Elf has just thrown a grenade at your feet. and you see probably like, I don't know, I think you're probably 15 or 20 meters away from the very edge of town, and between you and that point is the person who is dressed in all gold and is barking orders at the Marines, and the Marines are just out in the town somewhere in various places around the town.
Merkis bobbles the stylophone, and you can just hear it, whoa, whoa. And with some swiftness, he jumps off the Zog, does a quick spin, and each of his duck boots are actually club-like weapons, and swings the tail duck boot like a golf club, trying to hit the grenade behind, where we just came from, like away from us.
What's higher for you, combat or movement?
I think they're the same. Yeah, mine are just the same.
So yeah, I would say roll whichever one you like. I guess roll whatever that amount is, and if you get a 6 or higher.
Oh no!
Oh no!
Merkis got a 4.
Merkis, you miss. You take a swing back. You take a big wind up, but I don't know. You whiff it. You hear the whoosh of a boot clearing air, but the grenade is still in the grass, beeping lightly at you. It will go off in 2 rounds. And I will remind you, it does 2d20 damage in a 6-meter radius. The Deva, who is the lieutenant in the gold cloak, the gold gown, is just going to roll to basically command their troops. And they did not do well. Okay, the Deva is pointing and saying to the troops like, Detachment A, go around left to the back of the town, and Detachment B, go through the center and try to cut him off at the pass and go and try to do, is like trying to basically explain like a pincer movement, but there is too much chaos, there's too much going on. In this moment, the Void Elf just makes a very complicated hand gesture and points at a portion of the town, and one of the buildings turns into, none of you would know what this is. Actually, maybe Remy would. One of the buildings just turns into a CVS.
Yeah, I think this wakes him up. He's just like, what the fuck?
It's like a late 20th, early 21st century chain pharmacy. It's completely alien to you and everyone around it, but the Void Elf thinks it's very funny and starts laughing. Oat, it is your turn. At the end of your turn, the grenade is going to go off.
Oat is going to leap off the Zog, sort of roll off the Zog, because he's old and his leg gets caught and he's up there with another person, and he kind of rolls off the Zog, catches himself, and just in pure instinct grabs the grenade and is going to try and throw it far behind them back on the trail where no one is. And I am going to burn 3 grit. I'm going to spend 3 grit. No, 6. Let's go big or go home, right? It's a grenade.
It's a grenade,
you spent 3 on a grenade. You spent 6 on a grenade.
So basically, you've guaranteed a success as long as you don't roll a 1.
Thanks. And he's going, hot hands, hot hands, hot hands. I rolled a 9. 8 more than the minimum, baby.
Yay!
Nice. Yeah. Oh, you successfully toss that grenade far behind everybody, and just as soon as it hits the ground, there's a loud pop and there's a small crater, but it's far enough away from everybody that nobody gets hurt. And you can hear the Void Elf in the distance go,
"Nice work, jerk!"
Yeah, Remy's also very impressed. He's like, actually, nice work. Nice work.
Oh, thanks, Oat.
I don't like this. Let's go. Let's get out of here.
The next people to act are the Marines. They are all going to roll at once just to see if they can get any shots at the Void Elf. This is going to be a big roll, so I apologize. Okay, some of them shoot themselves in the foot.
Oh, no.
1, 2, 3. So one of them manages to get a shot off at the Void Elf, and you can hear the laser pistol charging up and then fire and then kind of like pierce the side of the flying armor that it's wearing. And the Void Elf actually takes 7 damage.
Whoa.
And then it looks at that Marine and says,
"Your mother."
What's this Void Elf's name? I need to know a little bit.
You don't know its name.
I
but
know,
you
but
know,
I
Beta
wanna
doesn't know its name, but Shannon could know that its name is Snowlud Scissurde. The next person to act is Beta.
So, what is in our immediate surroundings, and where is the Void Elf now?
The Void Elf is kind of just hovering back and forth, zooming around above the town. So, generally above the town.
She's gonna tap on NTS and be like, "Hey, you busy?"
So you tap on the little black lime, and it begins to sort of unfold from within. Yeah, it grows again into that sort of liquid metal teardrop pod, and the hole opens, and you see sort of a glowing light within, and a voice that you hear from within say, "You have 14 notifications."
Yeah, and Beta's gonna want to get inside.
Yes, so you crawl inside near the sun that is advisable. You go up the little steps, and the hatch sort of closes down over you. Could you please pass, and I will just repeat, could you please pass a will check?
I'm going to burn 6 grit just to be sure, and then I'm also going to roll my will, which is already 12, but...
So yeah, basically don't roll a 1.
Okay, I so much will.
You rolled a 12, which is the highest you can roll. So I'm going to say, not only can you also act this round, but because you rolled a critical success, I'm also going to let you do a reason roll to figure out another feature of Nearer the Sun that is advisable, which basically has infinite features.
Whoa.
So every time you successfully get inside of it and you pass a will check, there'll be an opportunity for you to roll a reason check to learn something about it.
Wow.
And so depending upon how well you roll, I will tell you a more or less powerful feature of Nearer the Sun that is advisable.
Okay, so can I do that roll first?
Please do, yes.
Okay, cool. So I roll D12 plus 1 because I have a genius bonus, and I got a 6.
Okay, so you got like a pretty middle of the road kind of thing. So here, let me tell you something about Nearer the Sun that is advisable.
Oh, this is fun.
Yeah, this is so fun.
I love this.
I'm going to tell you 2 things that you probably have suspected up until this point that, you feel pretty confident of now, and one thing that you did not know.
Okay.
Seems like it's pretty important to pass that will check.
Yeah, okay.
Nearer the Sun than is advisable has guns on it.
Okay.
You can fire one of them for D will grit. You can fire 2 for 2 D will grit. Each arm cannon does 1 D20 damage.
Cool. Wow, she's got such a freaking crush on this NTS. How many hours have passed since we got there?
Since basically how many hours have passed since you were last in Nearer the Sun?
No, just in general, because one of my powers is sync, and I absorb 1 grit per hour from my surroundings.
Oh, probably about 8.
Oh, hell yeah. I mean, it's an awesome power. She has she just has to wait a little bit, and her grit just comes back. Okay, cool. So then she's is that it that I find out?
Those are the things that you learn. Seems important to pass that will check.
Yeah.
Nearer the Sun has arm cannons. The arm cannons cost D will to use, and they do 1 D20 damage.
So Beta gets in, NTS, and she's feeling good. She's feeling, wow, she's got that pep in her step. She misses that feeling. She had it just a couple of hours ago, but she missed it already. She can't get enough of it. And she says, she has this overwhelming sense, okay, I think there's a gun on here, and I'm gonna shoot it straight at the Void Elf. And she's feeling really confident that she's gonna hit it.
So what you do is you roll D will and spend the grit.
Okay.
You will then roll Nearer the Sun than is advisable's combat roll, not yours.
Okay.
And then if you hit, you will roll to damage. So you will lose the grit regardless of whether or not Nearer the Sun connects. Does that make sense?
Yes. Okay. So D will. Okay. 8 grit. That's okay. I just got that from the environment. Okay, and then okay, go ahead.
So now you are going to roll Nearer the Sun's combat dice, which is 1d20.
Oh, okay. Let's hope this works. But she doesn't say that. She says,
This will work.
She
Sorry.
says, see you later, Chuckle Boy. 10?
The Void Elf will dodge and rolled a 4, so he did not dodge.
Yes.
You should roll 1d20 for damage.
Okay.
Hell yeah.
Pilot recognized. Your name is Jupiter Palanquin.
Oh, yeah, I mean, sure, you can call me whatever you'd like.
Welcome back, Jupiter.
Thanks.
9. The Void Elf is going to spend some grit, and you do 6 damage.
And Beta feels awesome. She's not a huge fighter, but she could be one now.
The Void Elf is like,
Where'd you get that sweet toy, bro?
Beta does not answer.
it's kind of bleeding a little. Remy, you go next.
Yeah, Remy's he sort of stumbles off his Zog because he's feeling less nauseous, but very like sort of hungover from using Cloud. So is it immediately obvious how to use the Anverder's pistol?
No.
Okay, so I have to. Great, that makes sense. That's perfectly fine. I think what he's gonna do is he's gonna burn. It's 2 health for 1 grit, right?
It's 3 actually.
3. Okay.
Yeah.
He'll burn 9 health for. I guess that's 3 grit.
3 grit, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. 9 health for 3 grit. So let me make that change.
And just to explain how this works, Steelfleet, one of the mechanics is you can basically trade in health for grit at a cost of 3 to 1. And you can do that anytime you want.
He stumbles off the Zog and he sort of like hits the ground on his hands and knees because again he feels awful from using this like power earlier, and grabs like I guess like a handful of dirt from the ground. He'll burn 4 grit and roll to attack with charge.
All right. Yeah. Roll your combat. What are you? Yeah. You're gonna throw an exploding cloud of dirt at the Void Elf.
Yeah, they're not. I mean, it's like they'll shoot like bullets. So it's like he's like throwing like a cloud of like flechettes or something.
Sure. All right.
That are also small grenades. Yeah. So that is decom plus 4, 15.
Wow. Very good.
Yeah.
That's the second 4 to dodge that the Void Elf has rolled in a row.
That's in the chat for the Void Elf.
Yeah, the Void Elf is no slouch when it comes to trying to dodge stuff. Yeah. Roll for damage.
Yeah, so damage is d6 plus 4 plus 5, or plus 1, sorry. Oh, fuck. It's only 6 damage.
Oh, no. The Void Elf, however, is not taking this seriously and so does not activate the damage-absorbing features of his witch suit. He just sees you pick up a hunk of dirt and is like,
who cares, bro?
So he unexpectedly takes the full 6 damage, so congratulations.
Yeah.
And he looks very pissed off.
I think the other thing that Remy's going to do is he's going to like take out one of the hands and just like chew on it and use, I guess, cannibal. Just like... Yeah, it's like it says that you can wolf down a kilogram of human flesh to regain d6 health. If you do, make a reason check. Success has no effect. Failure makes you feel emotions and lose d6 grit.
Okay.
So 1 kilogram of assorted limbs, which I think is maybe like what 1.5. I'm keeping track of this stuff in my character sheet.
Yeah. I really don't want to think in this way about the limbs that you're consuming, so I think I'm just reserving myself to just letting you do whatever you want with the various body parts in your bag.
Good. Sounds good. He's just like, he's not bothered by it. Like he's like, there's all this chaos around him. He just feels really bad and like he's like gonna do his part, but doesn't really care that much. He's like, ugh, I feel terrible. I can't concentrate on this battle. I need to eat. So I guess I'll do a reason check. So my reason is 9. So he feels fine. He's just sitting there on the ground, like chewing by his Zog, sort of resting his head.
After having thrown explosive dirt into the air.
Yeah.
The Void Elf realizes that you 4 are the ones to be reckoned with, and sort of spins his mecha suit in a direction, and comes careening towards you, and pulls out this jagged. It's kind of hard to tell what it is. Like it's this jagged piece of metal with a handle and a hilt. So it is technically a sword, but the blade of it doesn't look sword-like. It just looks like a long rectangular piece of very ragged metal, and it's vibrating. It looks like it's vibrating very quickly. This is a high-frequency sword, and it's basically just going to try to sweep down, and it's going to take a swipe at near the sun that is advisable / beta. Because it identifies nearer the sun. It knows exactly what this technology is and knows that it is not to be messed with. So it's just gonna, try to make a swipe. So roll Shannon. Beta, you are going to have to roll nearer the sun's movement, which is 1 die higher than yours.
Okay, my movement's an 8, so I roll a d10, right? Or no?
You roll a d10, yeah.
Yeah, okay. 7.
Okay, you did not.
Yikes.
So the void elf swoops down, leans out, sort of its flying saucer, and tries to take a swipe at nearer the sun with its high frequency sword. Manages to connect. Does 6 damage. The way that nearer the sun takes damage versus how you take damage is a little complicated.
Okay.
And so the way that I think we're going to do it is we're just going to keep track of it throughout the combat rounds. And if you take as much damage as it would take to kill you, let me know and we'll see what happens.
Okay.
Near the sun will basically absorb a certain percentage of the damage that you take. It's just you have not done the roll to figure out how that works yet.
Okay.
So it will always, until you know that fact, it will always be a little bit of a surprise.
Okay. So I take 6 health damage.
Take 6 health damage.
Okay, great.
Additionally, please pass a will check.
Okay, pass a will check. 12. Okay. I hope I pass. I didn't.
You
I hope I pass.
When the high frequency sword connects with nearer the sun than is advisable, you like feel jostled, but you also feel like someone has just picked you. You feel like a paint can in one of those machines, like someone has just picked you up and shooken you, like shaked you very, very vigorously. That thing is vibrating so fast that it like almost makes your blood boil. So you, for the next round, take a -1 penalty to every roll.
Okay, that makes sense. Oh, I don't feel so good.
Threat level Dandelion. Permission to execute Nihilist protocol.
Sure?
Permission granted. Uh-oh. Weird call, Combat.
Well, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
Vynos, it is your initiative.
Vynos was happy to let everybody else deal with this until the Void Elf just attacked his friend. He thought that this was kind of just a gamer shithead that was just having fun. So Vynos turns his palms facing up, and he points his head down towards the ground, and then he slowly pulls his hands and his fingers in towards his body, and he says, and then you hear, everybody around him hears a trickling sound. In the language he spoke, he said the words, "slow the river." And what he just did was cast a spell that allows everyone who is going to be playing after him to take their turn twice. He's effectively slowed time down for as many rounds as he chooses. This is actually the perfect round order scenario for this particular.
Because the Void Elf will go last. Yeah.
Yes. And he also gets to choose the number of rounds. So it helps that we have 6 people next who are uninterrupted to go against the Void Elf. So instead of 6 rounds against the Void Elf, we now have 12. What everybody finds is that they can move at normal speed, but clearly everything else is going twice as slow. It's a very odd experience. If you were to do experiments in this space, you would find very weird numbers in all of your lasers. And so he will be doing this for the next 6 people. I have to burn 8 plus X, which is the number of rounds I want this to happen for, which is the next 6 rounds. Grit, so that's a total of 14 grit he just spent. And the trickle sound goes for each of the 6 people that this will apply to, and then it slowly fades away, and their next turns happen twice.
I get to self-destruct twice, probably.
Yes.
Holy shit.
Nick, just a point of order, so that I understand. The Void Elf rolls like normal. He just only gets one round, right?
Yes, because Slow the River allows you to choose the number of rounds. And I'm guessing a round in this parlance is a turn, right?
Yeah, so like Merkis will go twice, the Deva will go twice, Oat will go twice, the Marines will go twice, the Beta will go twice, Remy will go twice, and then if the Void Elf is still alive, time will speed back up again and he will go once.
Exactly. The moment the Remy is finished, that's when time clicks back to behaving normally.
And so let's say in the next round, Merkis wants to throw a grenade or wants to fire a gun. I don't know if Merkis has those things, but just for the sake of argument, wants to attack. The Void Elf will still roll his movement die to dodge the same way, right?
Yeah, this is interesting because I think so. I think you would have to, otherwise this would be a much more overpowered power if he had no recourse.
Yeah, and I think that owes to like your description of it being very strange to behold. It's not just that time has slowed down; it's that like there's 2 times happening at once,
right?
And both of those times are only subject to certain people. So the Void Elf is like moving at normal speed, but only gets to act once, whereas everybody else gets to act twice. So it's like you've like folded two eventualities on top of one another. It's like a double exposed moment.
And exactly, and they both happen. So it is a little bit like sort of a quantum type event, kind of right, yeah, kind of it happened and didn't happen kind of thing. So that is a better way to look at it, because you will see 2 reactions to all of their moves, but time will go back to normal. So the Void Elf won't be able to do 2 actions.
Wow.
Merkis.
I mean, what does it feel like to the rest of us? Can Merkis just look at his hands and is just like, whoa?
Yeah, I mean, I guess you feel like you feel like it's like a strange combination of you feel like there's 2 of you, or you feel like one of you can do twice as much in the same amount of time.
Both are right.
Everything else around you is like still pretty normal.
I guess Merkis was still like spinning and coming out of that spin and feeling very disappointed, but just starts to think about what his brothers would do. And so he unlatches one of the bolas in his belt and starts swinging it to try to hit the Void Elf. It doesn't have legs, but at least maybe he can tie up its top half.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. That's a combat roll?
Yeah,
right?
It's a combat roll, and the Void Elf will roll movement to try to dodge around it.
Okay.
Ooh.
Merkis got a 9.
Yeah.
Oh no, the Void Elf rolled a 2.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Okay, so if the target is hit, so that was hit, right?
Yep.
They must make another move check against 6. I know they don't have legs, but against, if they fail, they still trip and fall.
Okay, so the Void Elf failed. Yeah, kind of by a lot. Merkis, you nail it. You twirl the bola over your head and you let it fly. You remember, I don't know if it was, the training that your brother gave you, or if it's just, you feel different. You feel empowered in this new double time moment. But not only do you manage to hit the Void Elf, you kind of by chance happen to get one end of the bola stuck in the suit's intake valve. And the Void Elf is now, it's still chugging along in the air, but it's not nearly as fast. And you can tell that he's having a hard time, piloting his flying saucer mecha suit.
Upon hearing the little tink as it made contact, Merkis just drives a fist in the air and goes, "Hush, puppies!"
Big day at the catchphrase factory, huh? That you got a banger. It's the song of the summer, Jen.
Hush puppies.
You can hear the Void Elf just swearing up a storm. Does he take any damage from this, or is he just kind of waylaid a little bit?
Oh, yes. It is a D2.
Okay. He just takes, he's going to take 2 damage.
Yeah.
And you get to act again.
Oh, boy. So it's still in the air?
Yeah, he's, it's kind of like making that sound, the super future version of that car sound from old cartoons where it's like, it's like backfiring and sputtering and trying to intake air to keep it afloat, but it's having a hard time.
Okay. Merkis is gonna try another spin move, but this time is throwing kind of like a hammer throw with the tail, with his tail. So as he spins, the baby duck boot goes flying toward the Void Elf.
Okay.
Willing to sacrifice a boot.
It's kind of a big deal,
Oh,
right?
an 8.
The Void Elf can't beat it, so you hit it. Yeah, he rolled a 4.
Okay, and damage is D4, so roll 1D4. And a 1.
You beat him on the head with the boot, and you can tell that it didn't hurt him a lot, but like he's really pissed about it now. Like that's embarrassing.
I mean, but to Merkis, this was a rousing success. And he's just doing a little like dance.
The Deva acts next, the sort of lieutenant in the gold robe, and you can see they kind of look down at their hands. They're getting reoriented in this new sort of like strange double moment. And the Deva turns around and looks at Merkis and is like, no. Looks at Beta and is like, no. Looks at Remy and is like, maybe. Looks at Vynos and is like, oh. And kind of gives Vynos like this very, like nearly imperceptible, very tight nod. It's just like, mm-hmm. And the Deva like reaches their arms out, kind of like they're gonna hug someone, and then slowly brings them back in, as though they're drawing energy from the environment, just like hunching their shoulders and tensing their arms, and then juts an arm out really quickly with a flat palm, thumb up, and just points at the sputtering, embarrassed Void Elf, and doesn't say anything, and you don't see anything happen. It looks like they're directing some thought very carefully and very intensely at the Void Elf. Hold on one second. They get a disappointed look on their face, and drop their arm down, and they sort of like shake it off, like they're uncomfortable or like, something didn't go right. They just repeat that again. They do the same thing. They brace themselves, widen their stance a little bit, close their eyes, take in a deep breath, put their arms out, tense them, bring them back in, and do the same thing. Jut a hand out, point it at the Void Elf, and this time they're going to burn some grit. Oh my God.
No. Mike, just let him do it.
But it's 8.
That was a success, but it was 1 off from a failure. You can't see anything. You don't see anything happen between the space of the Deva's hand and the several meters through the open air that leads to the Void Elf. But if you look up at the Void Elf, you can see the sputtering, sparking, and like lilting, like it's kind of like trying to heft itself in the air and it can't do it. The armor starts to ripple and it starts to bubble and it becomes kind of like a weird liquid, and it changes its shape from a black spiny saucer, and it becomes droopy until the Deva closes their fist and goes from flat palm to just tight fist, tenses their whole body, and the saucer just turns into a boulder in an instant. It just turns into a large rock, and the void elf falls from the sky onto a kind of like hutch that held hay, not hutch, a tiny hut, and crushes it. And you can see, now that you can see it a little bit closer, it's just trapped inside of a stone. It's just inside of a rock. Oat, you're next. You have 2 actions.
Oh boy. So is part of the void elf's body sticking out of the boulder?
The void elf is wriggling and screaming and swearing and trying to pull its lower half out of this boulder.
In
but
slow
it is
motion,
just,
right? It's like, or I guess its voice would be normal.
Yeah. No, it's not slow motion. It's just weird, like double time. Like 2 things are kind of happening at once.
Okay. But there's
yeah,
part of its. Is there anything on the torso of the void elf, the part that I could see and could run to? Is there anything that's like? Is there a bandolier of grenades?
Motherfucker, there is exactly a bandolier of grenades.
My friend, I am going to use. Oat does the same thing that Merkis did. Just like is looking at his hands, is looking at Merkis, and he's like, "You people don't mess around." And he realizes that he can do double, and he gets so happy because he's gonna do something he hasn't done in a long time, which is steal. So steal is a class power that Oat has, and I'm gonna burn D8 grit. Leave it up to the dice gods. 5. So I'm going to burn 5 grit and then roll my movement to add. Now it says add my level check. Does that mean just add my level number?
So roll movement and add your level and get a 6 or higher.
You got it.
And Oat already has a bonus to movement, so
yes.
You can also use that.
Oh, and does that bonus come anytime I roll movement?
Anytime you roll movement.
I love it. Okay, so I get a +2. And I'm rolling.
So you want a 6 or higher.
Another 9.
Nice.
If you succeed, I steal
just
the
get it.
object.
Yeah, you
I
just
steal
have
the
it.
thing without being caught. Period.
Oh.
This is one of my favorite things about Stillfleet is the number of rolls where you just where like things just happen.
I love it. It's so much fun. I love this kind of game design. I'm getting more into it too, but I love this. So,
I mean, I'm gonna say also because he's gonna try to swipe at you, but he can't meaningfully move away.
Right.
So because you were successful, roll a d6.
Sure. Oh. 1.
Yeah, he's only got 1 grenade left.
Okay.
So yeah, you get his 1 grenade off of his chest.
No. I wasn't going for the grenade.
Oh,
I'm
all
going
right.
for the pin.
Oh.
Stealing pins.
I'm just going to go take that pin right off.
He smacks at your face as you're coming in to try to steal the like he's literally trying to smack you in the face. It's not like flailing and trying to hit whatever he can connect. He's literally just trying to smack you.
Yeah.
I'm
acting. Oat is acting like he's like, I'm gonna punch you, you evil motherfucker. And he is with his right hand, he's pretending to fight him, and the left hand is just very quickly lifting the pin out of that grenade, unseen.
The void elf continues to swear at you and continues to say terrible things about all of your family members until he smells the faint smell of the grenade arming itself and starting to steam as it activates the chemicals on the inside. And then he looks at you and he goes, "You coward!" And then he explodes into a million pieces.
Wow. Wait.
I think he blew himself up.
Wait, can void elves die? Well, I thought void elves can't die.
I mean, they're immortal. They won't die of their own, they won't age and die, but
I see, but they can be exploded.
If you blow them into a million pieces.
Yes, being blown up is kind of like their kryptonite.
Yeah, I see now. I understand now.
True of many sapiens. We are out of initiative.
Threat level detected. Threat level now at Lazy Susan. Threat neutralized. Still continue with Nihilist Protocol.
Maybe next time. I'm kind of all messed up from that.
Discontinuity found to be in low priority. Deactivated.
Oh.
You are pooped out the back of this thing, and then it shrinks back into its little black metal lime.
Yes, there's a little lime sort of floating at about chest height that formerly was nearer the sun than is advisable.
And then Beta says, You are just so busy. What a busy body. Kisses it on the top of its head and puts it in her pocket.
Yeah, a tiny voice. Like, it's the same voice, but it just sounds far away because it's coming out of the little lime. It says thank you. Have fun with that, Mike.
It is nice to be loved. Now that the threat has been neutralized, you can kind of get a sense of the destruction that happened here. That it looks like the Void Elf has maybe been here since you freed it, just kind of like having fun torturing people because it had been locked up for God knows how long. There's a lot of destruction that happened. The good news is that a lot of the people who were transformed, the ones that are still alive at least, are slowly turning back to normal. And the Deva is actually going around and is touching some people. And you can see that as they touch certain townspeople, their hands go from bundles of blonde hair back into fingers. They touch someone else and their head sort of shrinks and grows back and it's the right size again, or it's the right orientation again. And so they're going around and doing all of these things and sort of tending to people. And the soldiers that were assisting are going around and kind of starting to clean things up. The Deva does, after they sort of talk to a few people and reconfigure a few people, see you, sort of locks eyes with Vynos, and then looks at everyone else and starts to walk towards you.
Merkis is just holding the naked end of his tail like, oh, I hope the shoe is still intact.
Aww.
Remy is finishing the limbs, but with his nanites, so it's just like he has them in his hands and they're sort of being absorbed through his palms.
The Deva approaches, gets closer, and yeah, you can see it's just, they're very dapper. They look very well put together. They're definitely someone who is very much in charge. They have kind of like very flat features. They look very almost nondescript, but yeah, a big tall gold hat, long gold robe, and they approach. Who's up front? Who's like, in the front of the group of you?
I think probably Merkis.
So this person approaches you and they say, I am Shasho, Deva to the Anax, openness. And they sort of do a little, kind of like a nod and a bow, sort of similar to what they did to Vynos when they figured out that, Vynos had cast the double time spell.
Merkis bows and goes, "Ha, I'm Merkis."
The Deva looks at everyone and kind of does this little gesture with an open palm and kind of like gestures to all of you in a sweeping motion and says, congratulations on your success at the Anvader's estate, Ambivalence.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. I do appreciate it.
The Saffron Anax would, and they look over their shoulder at the ruined town, like to speak with you at his court, and they'd continue their sweeping gesture across the vista of Rigamont B to Rigamont A, which you can see floating in the sky off to your left on Rigamont A. And then they narrow their eyes a little bit and say, demand.
Oh.
And then they bow again just a little.
Oh, yes, I see.
He turns to the group and says,
There may be a question of who's culpable for these events.
It's not it. Not me.
well, that's nice.
How do we get there? It's floating in the sky. I don't see any ships.
Of course. The Deva whistles, does like a sort of, puts their fingers in their mouth and does a loud whistle. And all of the fighters that were helping the townspeople and were righting up some of the houses and cleaning up some of the debris kind of up to, and they all form in a line between, like on the other side of you, so that you are between them and the Deva. And the Deva reaches into the underside of their golden robe and pulls out what looks like a small pocket knife, but the handle is like a kind of hexagon of metal. It's like 4 inches across, but there's like a tiny blade on the end of it. And they turn their back to you and kind of thrust their arm into the open air in front of them. And you hear a very small, tiny rip, followed by a series of clicks and pops like the start of a fire. you begin to smell the smell of burning ozone. You can see that where they thrust their arm, a neat black border opens up mid-space, just a small envelope a couple inches tall. The Deva turns their hand, like they're sort of widening the space and opening it up a little bit, and the rip unfolds neatly in these straight and defined edges. It's kind of like unfolding a paper map, but it's the space in front of you. What was once 3 dimensions becomes some very confusing combination of 1 dimension turning into 2, and 2 turning into 3, and 3 turning into, you're not really sure, but it like kind of hurts to look at. And after a couple seconds of this ozone burning smell and popping sound and unfolding, a jet black square has unfolded in the space in front of you, and you all have this like very familiar feeling. It feels like what it feels like when a Stiffworks opens. Like the space hasn't really changed, but suddenly just where you are feels a little bit bigger and a little bit wider and more open. And if you look through the rip that has unfolded, you can see that there's space on the other side of that space. Like, it's hard to say if it's like you're going into a door, are you going inside somewhere, are you going through? But like on the other side of this border, there's a black and gray landscape that's kind of like a featureless desert lit only by moonlight. And the Deva points to it, like sort of gestures at it in that similar open palm gesture, and looking at you, just walks through it and goes a few steps in and beckons you all to follow.
Merkis grabs the reins of the Zog and follows, because this feeling is very familiar. It's like, well, I guess she's driving.
The Deva puts their hand up and says, "Your mounts will not be necessary."
Oh. So
do you all follow?
Yeah, I think we follow.
Okay, you all go in. The soldiers follow behind you. They are picking up the rear as they are entering into the door. You can hear some of them shouting to the townspeople, giving them advice, telling them what to do, telling them how to re-raise their buildings or what have you, how to get rid of the CVS that was dropped down there if they even can. One of the townspeople is holding a bottle of Flonase and is going, "Flonase."
Because they can read English?
You all step into this dark blue, gray, white, black, confusing landscape. You have all stepped into the Escher-esque.
Oh.
So the Escher-esque is a higher dimensional plane that is always all around you, but can only be accessed with the right tools and the right training. This is the home of extra-dimensional entities like the Ilithnari and their various civilizations. Not just the Ilithnari, there are many different extra-dimensional entities that call this dimension and others, various levels of home. In the Escher-esque, there is also a lot of outposts of long fallen and also not yet existent ultra advanced societies that learn how to traverse time and space. There is good news and bad news about breathing in the Escher-esque. The bad news is that the Escher-esque doesn't have atmosphere or gravity. The good news is that it has every atmosphere and gravity. So whenever a portal to the Escher-esque is opened, when people cross into it from another dimension, from higher or lower dimensions, they bring their own atmosphere with them for a short time. So as long as you don't travel too far, or as long as you don't spend too much time, you won't experience a kind of like dangerous deprivation from 3-space 1 time that is referred to as drowning. It is sometimes referred to as burning. So you're good. You pass through. You're walking along the ground. We'll talk about what walking is like in a second, because it's strange, as you might imagine. But what does happen is whenever you enter the Escher-esque, you do experience a very particular form of nausea that I think you all would be familiar with, because it's kind of like what happens when you go through a stiff work, but it's just like much, much worse, because you are fully inhabiting a dimension that is above yours. So both physically, physiologically, mentally, metaphysically, ontologically, like it's hard for you to deal with. So here's what you do. Every time you enter the Escher-esque, everybody should roll a d4.
Okay.
3.
1.
2.
3.
Now remember that number. Have that
Okay.
number in mind. Roll d-will.
Oof. Rolled a 1.
I got 2
3.
1s.
8.
Yeah, subtract that second number from the first number with a minimum of 1.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And now roll reason and add it.
Okay.
-1.
2 plus reason. Okay.
Oh, actually, Merkis did okay.
-1. 5. No, 6.
Merkis got a total of 5.
Remy got 11.
Oh, got a 7.
Okay. The idea here is that the stronger your reasoning skills, the more upsetting this is to you. Because you're trying to figure out, you can't relax. You can't just let it happen. You're like trying to figure it out. Trying to just like have a normal experience, but you just cannot. So you just psych yourself up. So 1d4 minus will plus reason, take that much damage in grit.
Oh,
Ooh.
no.
So, oh my God.
No.
So I just lost 11 grit, is what you're telling me?
Yeah.
Grit is gone.
Oh.
Because it is,
Bummer.
right? If grit is the representation of you having a difficult experience, this is a very difficult experience.
Ah.
Jeez, I just wiped out all of the gains that I got from absorbing some meat into my body.
Ugh. So as you step into the Escher-esque, into this moonlit vista, and you sort of traverse this strange plane, all of you, it just feels awful and confusing, and it feels a little bit like you're being not torn apart, but like your understanding of what you are as a coherent entity is challenged, and that presents some physiological results. The Deva just continues walking ahead of you across the sort of dunes of this weird desert, seemingly unperturbed. Yeah, how's everybody doing? You're not doing well. You don't feel great.
Look at
Remy's like, I have a double hangover? How is that possible?
It's the extra dimension adds another dimension of hangover.
Merkis is touching his 4 little bulby fingertips together and just like matching the pinkies up, and like my name is Merkis. My name is Merkis. I am a simple salad. My name is Merkis.
It's kind of like being on drugs, like just drugs that you cannot handle, but also your body hates. Well, I guess that's also true about drugs that you can't handle.
I don't want to sound ungrateful for you all busting me out of my ex-girlfriend's prison, but
Whoa,
I am.
bud.
I am. Oh
Wait,
shit!
what?
I spilled it. Fuck! I forgot. Let me start over.
No, I think he said it. He's got.
Okay, fine. But I am reverse grateful for this.
Beta's eyes light up when she hears the word girlfriend, because that's pretty fun. And while she's feeling really bad, this is an experience she doesn't have very often, so she's pretty curious about it.
Here, let me set the scene, and then you guys can have a conversation as the Deva walks you in the direction you have to go. It's from our perspective of playing a game in 3 space 1 time on Earth in 2020. It's very difficult to describe what it is like walking across the Escher-esque, and like what it looks like. You are walking on some kind of ground, I'm using quote fingers, towards, again, quote fingers, your destination, but you're also like in and through that ground. You are on top of it, but also inside of it. And you also occupy like some manner of empty space that is the expanse of the sky, but the sky is also you, and that you kind of commingle with this empty space in a strange way. You are walking forward, but you're also walking kind of up and into your destination, which both looks like you are advancing upon, but also looks like it's coming toward, like it's walking itself or sliding towards you. You can see the Deva is gesturing at this building that's on the quote unquote horizon that looks kind of like it's either a large angular building that's far away or it's a small angular building that's very nearby. You can't really tell. And as you walk towards it, the faces of it kind of shift and bend, like you're looking at the front and back of it at the same time, like you're kind of looking at and through it. To each other, you all look like yourselves, but you look like flat versions of yourselves. I think we've made this joke before that you kind of look like sprites. It's kind of like Earthbound. You are you, but you are a flattened, lower fidelity, which is not right, but is the closest we have, version of yourself in this dark, undulating and seemingly infinite landscape that's lit by some dull, unseen gray-blue light. You don't see a sun, you don't see a moon, but everything does have this kind of gray glow to it. Off in the quote-unquote distance, you can see other structures poking through and around the horizon and the distance here and there. There are these like white, half-rendered outlines against the weird black of the sky ground. And again, yeah, like as you move, everything's sort of rippling and turning and undulating. It moves kind of in a way that similar to the way the Invader's estate moved, but it's much more uncomfortable to look at and behold.
Vynos, is this part of what you were doing earlier?
So Vynos actually seems pretty comfortable in this space. His movement seems less labored. His voice seems younger. He's kind of in his element here. So he turns to the group and Merkis in particular, and he goes,
"Not quite. Gang, I believe we should get our story straight. They're going to want to pin all of this on us, as it should be. It is our fault we released all these dangerous prisoners into this world. We must blame the Void Elf."
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, Remy's like, yeah, whatever, dude.
Beta's just kind of taken back by Vynos's new voice. It's very hot. And she's like, yeah, whatever you say.
Okay. All right. When we came into the prison cells, he was already breaking out. We tried to stop him, but we couldn't.
He disappeared.
Yes. All right, let's go.
Oh my God.
Vynos is a fucking hunk in the Escher-esque.
Yeah.
It's like Stefan.
Great, yeah. So you guys walk.
Does everyone agree?
Yeah,
With this
Remy's
plan?
like,
Remy doesn't care, but does
Remy's
everybody
like
else who would care?
non-responsive. He's like,
All right.
To be fair,
can see
yeah,
his-
you have clouded yourself and lost 11 grit in the last 10 hours. So you do actually probably feel like you have a 4-dimensional hangover.
Yeah, he's not doing great. I feel like his skin is probably rippling very strangely. The nanites are just doing stuff, but he's trying to keep his eyes closed as much as he possibly can, just because he's like, this is a bad place.
You, after probably about 10, 15 minutes of hiking, though, I mean, it also feels like a day and a half and 30 seconds, you arrive at a small angular building that's in this strange gray environment. It's like a squat utility house made of a uniform material that has the texture of like petrified tree bark, and the Deva reaches again into their golden cloak and produces that key again, and this time instead of shoving it into empty space, they shove it into a door that is in this squat kind of utility house, and it clicks open, They walk through. Do you follow?
Yep.
Yes.
Remy's sprinting at it.
You walk into a big gray room in 3 space 1 time, and you all feel amazing.
Oh.
It is.
Oh, my name is Merkis.
Except for maybe Vynos, who is like,
No.
Withering.
The way it was intended. Length, distance, height, and a little spice of time. Good old 3-dimensional space. You gotta love it.
The Deva continues walking into this big gray room, sort of beckoning you forward. In this room,
hey, guys, before we go inside, I should tell you, I was too weirded out back there to talk. But yeah, don't lie to this guy. Okay, that's all.
Oh, goodness
Good timing.
gracious.
What?
Yeah, he's gonna know you're lying. You can't lie to this guy. Okay.
Okay.
The Deva keeps like beckoning you forward into this big gray room. Except for the door that you came through, there's no obvious other door. And it similarly is lit by some sort of distant, like recessed lighting source. In front of you, there's a large raised platform. It's long and it's deep. It's only raised maybe a foot or so. And in the center of it, there's a big chair. It's kind of a sphere with a wide notch cut out of it. Looks like it might be made of stone or concrete or something. And behind it and sort of above it and around it are these large orange rings of another kind of stone or metal, some very rough and heavy looking material. And they're kind of just floating there, as far as you can tell, with no clear like suspension mechanism. They're just there floating in the air, spinning slowly, and they're bright orange. And you can tell that they're giving off a very, very intense heat. It's not dangerous, it's not unpleasant, but it's like being very close to a heating lamp. You can just tell that they're glowing because of how hot they are. And as you file in, the soldiers file in behind you. You hear the sort of like familiar clicking and clacking and popping and crackling sound of that door to the Escheresk closing. And the Deva turns around. They close their eyes for a moment. They open them and get a sort of like smile on their face. And they sort of rise onto their tiptoes and say, "Disarm them." And then they look at all of you and sweep their hand across you again and say, "Apologetic." As they do this, you can feel the small brigade of soldiers behind you start to tug at your backpacks. Remy, they tug at the straps that are holding the Anvader's large pistol around your shoulder. They're going to take, Vynos, your Escheresk blade from underneath your cloaks.
No!
They'll take the visor. Beta, they will take the Anvader's sword. They're going to take any weapons that you might have had on your person. They'll take your personal sword, Beta. Remy, they'll take your wooden sword, so on and so forth. They basically just want everything that you have on you. I mean, you can try to fight it if you want, but there are a lot of these soldiers, and they're pretty big.
Remy tries to crack a joke, but he's like very obviously sick. He says, "Take me out to dinner first." And he looks like he's about to collapse.
The soldier that is taking your things from you does chuckle a little bit. You can't tell if it's at your joke or how ill you are, but you do get a little reaction.
Do they take NTS?
Let's see. Yes.
Oh.
Beta doesn't resist, but she does say, "He's sleeping."
Yeah, the soldier, it's like a large woman in brass armor with 2 swords crossed along her back, just kind of without any acknowledgement that she even knew where you were keeping him, just reaches into your inside pocket in your jacket and pulls out NTS. And they kind of just like, pile all of your things into a big basket that's at the front of the room where the raised platform is. So I just want to be clear. Basically, all you have on your person at the moment is your clothing.
I feel very naked without my shoes.
Oh.
The Deva looks at all of you and says, again, apologetic, but you understand. They step off to the side and they just start walking across this large open gray room. And as they do this, in that spherical chair with the notch cut out of it, a humanoid shape starts to materialize. It's like it's scanned into existence, like it's slid through a minuscule, imperceptible slit in reality, and then it's there. It's kind of hard, again, to explain how it comes into existence, but it just kind of pops in, and it's reclining, kind of relaxed, maybe kind of exhausted. It's kind of draped over this chair with its long arms over the sides. Its head is tilted to one side. This is the Saffron Anax.
Give me one reason I should not kill you and reclaim the things that you took from the Invader's estate.
Well, I'm tired and I really want to sleep. Remy's just like staring at him or at them.
This thing, person, has no discernible features. They are like a humanoid shape, but they don't have a face. It's just smooth blue-gray skin. There's no eyes, there's no mouth, there's no hair. They have arms and legs and hands, but at least at this distance you can't see. There's no folds in their skin. There's no wrinkling. There are no fingernails or toenails. They're just kind of like a smooth human shape. Taylor, is the Saffron Anax wearing anything?
Well, wearing is a complicated term in this instance.
Okay, all right.
I shouldn't even really use
it's a he.
pronouns.
The Saffron Anax is a he.
Clothes don't really make any sense for him, but his body, as you can see it, is currently adorned. There is sort of, imagine if you could press a liquid, a constantly moving liquid, into the general shape of clothing. And so there's just sort of this layer of this luminescent orange and yellow luminous plasma, almost like the flame of a candle has been pressed into this thin layer that sort of moves around the same way that liquid in a bottle that you would shake would move around the bottle. It sort of moves in this thin layer around his body, and it's not necessarily there to cover anything, because as it moves around his body, the entirety of his body is exposed at some point. So while I wouldn't say that he's wearing anything, he definitely knows he looks fantastic. Perhaps it would help if I gave you the vast benefit of the doubt that it's possible that you might be aware of some information that I am not. And I told you that the Invader was a close friend of mine, and that I'm aware of the events that happened at her estate before her passing.
Oh, so you're aware that we didn't kill her?
Yes.
Okay, great. Sorry, what's this about?
I asked you to give me one reason I should not kill you and reclaim the things you took from her estate.
Yeah, well, I said I was tired, and I would hope that, you give us a chance to sort of, I don't know where I'm going with this. That dimension thing really fucked me up. I'm sorry, man. I just really, it's like I have a 5-dimensional hangover. Does anybody...
Merkis absolutely cracks and is just covered in getting mucusy all over his body, he's sniffle, full body sniffle. And he's like, I'm really sorry I took this pen. I got it for Algar, who is our boss. He's always asking us to sign things. And it's just a crumpled mess on the floor. It's just all mucusy, and I'm just sorry. You can look in my bag for the pen.
Let me clarify further. I do not sit here in any sort of moral judgment of what you have done as right or wrong, but you should understand that while the Invader and I were close friends, we also had an arrangement, a series of agreements. Specifically, one of our most relevant agreements to this conversation was our agreement that she keep her prisoners just that, prisoners. Actions taken by you have negated that agreement, and you've released some rather unpleasant things onto my twins.
Yes, but it doesn't seem that this void elf is really a problem anymore, and the Illithnari is not really a problem anymore, so we'll just be on our way.
Not quite yet. The Void Elf did cause several problems, and while the Davis will be able to ascertain and assuage any of these consequences in time, of course there is an opportunity cost for me to dedicate the resources and attention to solving those problems of which, I remind you, you were the cause.
Well,
let me speak in the language you might be more comfortable with of the company. Perhaps we can come to an agreement where you serve some sort of utility.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm used to being a utility most of the time. Now we're speaking my language. What do you need from us?
Well, why don't you make the first offer? How would you like to make the situation right?
Remy's just clutching his head. He really can't parse this.
Yeah, I mean, Beta's down to 2 grit. Well, I mean, I certainly can lend you my knowledge. I know a lot about the different, orgasmic bounty of, not orgasmic. I said orgasmic, but I did not mean orgasmic.
Beta combat, everybody.
The bounty of the universe. I could help. Yeah, I could give you that.
I can tell that you are not a team of negotiators.
I 1,000 apologies for myself and my consorts here. But you see, we work for the worshipful company of Stillfleeters. And as I have it here in my documents, we had every right to be at the estate and collect valuables that were up for the grabs. I would like you to know there was a large tree growing through the very prison that you said would be holding these prisoners, and with the Enviator gone, it was only a matter of time before the whole structure itself was torn asunder and the Void Elf awoken. We simply, accidentally, sped up the process, and we dealt with the threat, perhaps a bit late, but I just ask you keep this in mind when you consider our sentence. We have many skills, many talents, and we, better than anything else, are collectors and finders. Is there anything that you would like collected?
Now, when you put it like that, you've got my attention. I believe that we can find an agreement between us here that would create in you some utility to me. There is, in fact, something I would like collected and found. Did you know that I have already an arrangement with your company? Almost 300 years now.
I didn't see that in the contract.
Yes, I've been then. This sounds like a normal thing to say for Vynos, but he's not sure if anybody else understands it.
Yeah, I don't know. Beta, you might know. Vynos, you would definitely know that, yeah, the company, basically since its inception 300 years ago, has had an ongoing trade relationship with the Saffron Anax. And that it is actually the Saffron Anax was the first person or organization, however you want to describe it, that the company reached out to when the Stiffworks started working again after the tech quake. So there was a short amount of time during which the Stiffworks didn't work. They turned back on about a year ago, and they knew that they were back on when they were receiving messages to and from the Saffron Anax. So he actually is a close sort of trade partner of the company.
Yes, I know a bit about the arrangement. Yes. How may we come to your assistance?
Wonderful. That's the question I was hoping that you'd ask me. Let's agree that you'll do this favor for me, or assistance as you would call it. Now, if you're able to accomplish this, not only will I let you live, but I will reward you handsomely. Also, some of the things that I've taken from you, I'm happy to return. And much, much more.
Oh, that sounds very lovely indeed. Yes, we could all get along with that, can't we?
I believe we can. So it's an agreement then. We all agree.
Well, I certainly do.
And do you speak for the group?
Merkis is scratching his tummy, thinking and saying, yes?
Remy's like, yes.
Am I allowed to?
Remy immediately says yes.
Technically, Merkis, you are the first in command since you are the Banshee. In the absence of a factor and a witness, the Banshee is the official representative of the group.
Well, if it's an agreement with the company.
It is not.
Oh. They're like my parents.
I understand. I understand that in many species, the young live quite a long time and form quite important relationships with the older members of the species that raise them and acclimate them to their culture and climate. However, I also understand that there comes a time in many species marked by several rituals, different organizations of language or actions, where the young must then leave the care of the older species. I am correct in this, yes?
Oh, I guess now's the time.
I would agree. Now is the time. This agreement will be between us here, and you will not involve your superiors, the refactors, the archivists of the company. Is that understood?
Oh, yes.
Let's remember what's on the line.
As he says this, he goes from his reclining position with his arms draped around the sphere of the chair to a leaning forward position with his elbows on his knees that are bent. And it's like in both positions, he looks like a figure study drawing. It's just like a weird, perfect representation of a standard man shape. And the movement that he makes going from one position to the next is crisp and purposeful and graceful, and then he lands in a new position and stays there.
Merkis unfurls a couple of the ear ganglia and looks at the group and is like, yes? Is it yes?
Yes, I will follow you into the dark.
Yeah.
And I guess confidently Merkis's ear flaps like flag out and say, yes, you can count on us.
Wonderful. Now that you've offered a solution, I present to you the problem. I have been attempting to arrange some trade with Kakudun. You know it, the province home to the Fex.
You might know, this is like a provincial planet. The Fex are like what we would call a raccoon-like sapient.
But your employer is unwilling to engage in this arbitrage, and I simply have no idea why. It does seem that there is an archivist on one of your subcommittees by the name of Zestino Navel. My little spies tell me that she is causing difficulty, and I am becoming impatient. If this matter isn't cleared, well, I would be forced to terminate my contract with the company. However, my knowledge of Zestino Navel has come to me by somewhat illicit means, and so I'm afraid I would have to come up with another, excuse to void our contract. And the only thing that immediately leaps to mind is that recently a platoon of company agents brought a void elf onto my colony. You understand the issue.
Yeah.
And remember, during the 30 years of silence, without any stiff works at all, our outpost here did quite well. So, what I'm asking is for information about Miss Novell. Zestino Novell, see what she's up to, why she is blocking my agreement. Come back and tell me. And that is all.
Just to give some context as to what this might trigger in the minds of fleeters, this might be pretty terrifying to be asked to sneak around in company business, especially the archive, which is very secretive. But, it seems like, you could try to fight this guy. It might not go well.
Yeah.
I'm aware that what I'm asking is extraordinary, certainly not what you're used to, and could perhaps lead to severe consequences for yourselves, but nevertheless, what do you think?
Beta is hearing this, and she personally doesn't really have any. She's a little bit scared of the company, but she doesn't have any allegiance towards them. She just kind of is part of the company because it's the easiest way to experience things. So this kind of her, ears. She doesn't have ears, but her ears perk up a little bit on the idea of that maybe she'll get to, interact with a sapient that they normally don't interact with, or and talk with an archivist that she doesn't normally get to talk with. She's down.
Just on the order of fact finding alone, Beta's hell yeah, sure, why not? Who cares if it's dangerous? I'm going to learn something.
Right, exactly.
That's great. Yeah.
Vynos says, well, it seems as though we'll be in trouble with the company either way. If we lose their whole contract with your group, then we'll be in hot water as it is.
That's true.
Yeah, Remy's gonna go along with whatever, because again, he's he has 2 grit, and he that crossing really fucked him up, and he's his brain is on fire.
If anybody looks over, he's just kind of like swaying back and forth a little bit.
He's got his head like in his hands. He's just like, get me out of here. So he's like, he nods.
I am sensing that we have reached consensus. This is true?
Yes.
Wonderful. Regardless of the nature of the circumstances that have brought us together, I believe that what we have found today, an agreement and something to look forward to, perhaps is worthwhile.
He returns to his posture earlier where he was draped over the back of the chair. And you can't know this for sure, but you feel like he is atom by atom in exactly the same position.
Now, there is a second matter to discuss. Your things. I will be keeping the Anveda's sword. She was a friend, and I would like something to remember her by. You may keep her pistol.
As he is saying this, the objects that are in a pile, in that sort of like weird basket, a couple meters in front of him, just kind of start to float out of the basket and move around. So the sword floats up and moves to the right, and the pistol floats up and moves to the left.
You may have her pistol, but listen to me very carefully. Give it to your directorate. They will enjoy it, you'll be rewarded, and besides, you cannot use it anywhere. The visor and the blood cloak you may keep at your own peril. You should not want them, but I imagine that you do, going by what I know of your kind. Now, there's a bit of a question around this one, and the Escher-esque blade rises and begins to sort of float motionless in the air. This blade is a curious object. Are you interested in keeping it? Are you scared of it?
Well, I have Vynos kind of tugs at his quarter moon spectacles a bit and looks down. I have a bit of an interest, but I'm obviously not married to the thing. I would like it.
Oh, wonderful. Prove your ability to use it, and I will consider letting you have it.
It starts to float towards you.
Vynos takes it, and he takes a deep breath, and then he begins to unfold the blade. I will roll a d20 now. I got 17, so I only have 7 grit left. So I definitely do not have enough grit to actually pass that test. Should I roll reason, or does it not even matter because I can't pass the d20?
Wait, so how much grit do you have?
I have 7 grit left after the events of going into the Escher-esque.
Got it.
Escher-esque.
And how much health do you have?
I have 11 health.
Okay, so you can't get enough.
No.
Does anybody have Thinky Boost?
Merkis does.
Oh, there we go. I have Gunch, but Gunch is kind of scary.
Gunch!
I have Gunch.
You got the Gunch!
I got some launch.
In some places, Gunch is also known as Wanch.
Oh, yes. Gunch or Wanch. Yes, I have it in my notes.
Yeah, Merkis has Thinky Boost, which recovers D4 grit per dose.
And you can take up to will doses.
We only got 2, so.
Okay.
While Vynos is kind of reaching for the tool, he asks, will you need me to go into the space that isn't space, or is making the hole good enough?
For now, the hole.
Okay, because that if I had to do this whole test again to leave it, it wouldn't be worth even trying.
you would die.
Yeah. Going in would probably kill me, and then trying to come out, I would also die.
I think while this is happening, Remy looks at the Anax and says, mind if I sit down?
You're already sitting. And you see that you are.
Whoa. Yo, that's so cool.
I think maybe just Remy sat down and didn't realize it. And it is literally true that he was already sitting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, he's still, his mind is
the saffron Anax
his mind is still blown.
Yeah.
I would need, just so I don't know what calculations you guys are doing, I would need 10 grit. So if you don't have the ability to give me 10 grit, then that's fine.
I mean, I think how much is 2 Thinky Boosts the max that you can get out of that?
8.
8? And then I can give you some health. I can give you...
Yeah,
because I can
you can burn health to make grit, right?
Yeah, if someone could give me 8 grit, then I could burn 6 health to get the then leftover 2. So if someone could give me 8 grit, that'd be fine.
So 2 Thinky Boosts are 2 D4 dice rolls.
Oh, I see.
So it's not guaranteed.
That's pretty good, though.
Still
Okay,
pretty.
Yeah.
I'll try it.
And I can give you some Gunch.
Some wanch.
Yeah.
So Vynos is relieved to hear that he won't need to be entering the Escher-esque on this test, and he turns to his team and say, I may need a bit of help.
Merkis is rummaging through the orange swim trunks in the pockets. They're pretty deep for being so short, and pulls out 2 thinky boosts. Will this help you?
Oh, that's perfect.
Thinky Boosts are manufactured by the Archive. They're very popular and highly addictive pep pills. You can use D-will doses per day safely. You roll each day. If you have more than that, you go insane for 10 D-will days.
The way that I like to play with this is that you can just take will doses. You don't have to roll for it. You get max will.
Okay. Yeah, and so you would need to roll 2d4 to see how much grit you recover.
So I got 5 grit out of the deal.
Okay, where
I need
you
a
at
total
now?
of 10.
So you're halfway there.
Yeah, so I could use 10 of my 11 health to get there.
Okay, because then I can give you some health with some gaunch.
Some gaunch?
Yeah.
All right, so I will use the other 10 of my health, and I go down to 1 until I am healed with some gaunch by Miss Tom Bot. All right, great. So I passed that test, and now I have to do a reason test. And
So you
that's
have
just
spent
one.
the appropriate grit. Yeah,
To
you
do
spent
it.
your 17 grit. Yeah, and now
Yes,
you have to pass a
0
difficult
grit.
reason roll, which is get a 9 or higher.
Yeah, this may have all been for nothing. Let's see. It was. I got a 1.
Oh my god!
Incredible.
Are you kidding me?
Yes. Oh my
good,
God. So
too
I
Yeah, Vynos, you unfold the Escher-esque blade, and you manage to get it to focus into 3 space 1 time, and you rear back, and you do the thing that you have read about, that you saw the Ilithnari do, and you push forward and try to cut open time and space, and you are successful. You cut open time and space. There's a horrible ripping sound. There's a loud sort of like crack and sizzle. Everybody can smell burning ozone, and you lose your balance. And you fall into the Escher-esque,
no.
and the hole closes back up.
Vynos!
Remy looks up and he's convinced he's hallucinating. He's like, oh, shit, that was cool.
What?
Vynos is gone. Vynos is gone.
What had just happened? Merkis is rubbing his tummy like, oh no.
I understand that it's quite difficult, but I had hoped for a bit of a better show. This is a disappointment. However, like I said, it's completely understandable. Wait one moment, please. His arm just sort of moves up, and he just pulls Vynos out of the air.
What?
How long were you inside?
Don't speak of time.
Fair enough, my friend. And then Vynos just floats back and is set back right where he was when he was playing with the sword. And the Anax says, well, as much fun as we've had with this challenge, I believe I'll be keeping the Escher-esque blade for now. Is that understood?
Yes.
Ah, wonderful. Now, for my trouble, specifically the destruction of my settlement on Jemjom, I will keep, let's see, what shall I take as a sort of, I don't want to say tribute, let's just say personal payment. He's pointing at Vynos and he says, you've been through enough already. Sort of looks at your bag a little bit. What's in your bag?
Oh, well, let me see. Vynos pulls out a kind of a twisted pretzel of incredibly dense mystery material. He says, "Oh, well, you don't want that." And then he puts that to the side, and then takes out the vascular multi-object. And am I saying that correct?
Yeah, he got it. Vascular multi-object.
And he shows it in its weird, strange, not quite undulating form.
Oh, well, isn't that a lovely little thing?
Yes, it's very important to our mission.
Oh, the director would be unhappy if you didn't return with it.
Good. I just said the right thing, didn't I?
Well, though I've only seen you lose, you do appear to know when you've won. You may keep it. He points at Merkis. I'll take your spoils as my own. Now, of course, I will not have you return empty-handed, as that would cause suspicion amongst the Directorate, and you'd have to explain yourself. So, you may keep 7 objects.
And the pen?
Things start floating out of your bag. Things just like sort of like leave your bag from the pile that it's in front of him. Jen, could you roll a 3d20?
Okay.
We're just going to determine whether or not he steals anything of high value.
Okay. Oh.
Wow, you did very well. Okay, great. This roll result is meaningful probably next game, but the headline is that he mostly took just like artful trinkets and knickknacks and stuff.
And Merkis is just letting this happen. It's just like naked, no shoes, just feels really lost right now. Oh. And just kind of just making that weird like sound that he makes when he's thinking.
Like little statues and paperweights and decorative knives and strange other, space objects are just kind of like flying out of your bag and are being collected into another little bucket to the left of the room.
Wonderful. Now, of course, I remind you that much of this you can have back upon the successful completion of your favor to me. And of course, your lives are yours to live. And your job is very simple. Find out why my arbitrage is being blocked, and don't let anyone find out that you're even asking questions. Is that understood?
Vynos turns to Merkis to see if she confirms.
Yes, he confirms.
He confirms. Great. I'm doing great with gender tonight, guys.
Wonderful. Well, I hope that as stressful as this may have been for some of you, and I'm looking at the guys, they're essentially lying in a pile over to the left. I hope that it wasn't completely all work and no play. I'm quite looking forward to seeing you again. Goodbye. And he turns into sort of a 2-dimensional representation of himself that appears to have infinite depth, and then it just sort of turns, and he's gone.
It's like someone turning off a CRT TV.
Oh my God, yes.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
That's exactly what I had in my head.
Zoom.
Yeah.
When the Saffron Anax disappears, some of the soldiers pick up the things that the Anax piled up for himself, and they kind of just start to arrange it and go through it and look at it and sort of see what everything is worth. But the Deva goes to the pile of things that are yours and stands behind them, gestures at your backpacks and, the couple other things that are there, and then gestures to you, again, arms open, as if to say like, all right, come and get your stuff.
Merkis is still sniffling and just like pulling on the 2 boots. Oh. And just like, I lost one.
Beta grabs her stuff and gives NTS another little kiss on the head. Because that's kind of what she does now.
When combat grabs near to the sun than is advisable, she sees that there's a note on it. And it just says, careful.
Oh. Careful.
I love the thought of the Saffron Anax using Post-its.
Yeah, that's you're nailing it.
It's like in 100 million years, we didn't get any better.
They're still like very useful. They're so useful.
Yeah, you guys get all your stuff. The Deva then gestures to the door that you walked through and walks towards it and opens it up. And instead of the Escher-esque, you see the outside. It's like a warm summer night on Rigamont A. And they gesture out and they say, I will take you to the local Stiffworks.
Ah, thank you.
Do you guys head outside?
Yeah, Remy stumbles through the door.
Yeah.
He's determined to get out of whatever this is. as fast as possible.
You all leave, and the Deva closes the door behind you, and you can see that you're this is the most elaborate thing that you've seen other than the Anvader's estate since you've been on either of these planets. Rigamont A, I think you would probably just know this by reputation, is a little bit more densely populated. The technology strata is a little bit higher than Rigamont B, so it's like a little bit more of a cosmopolitan city, or cosmopolitan planet, but like not that much. But you are currently in the most elaborate and ornate part of the planet by far, which is the Saffron Anax's court, which is like kind of a city within a city. It's this cluster of very angular blue-gray buildings, mostly quadrilateral prisms. They have, various sizes, all in this sort of like tight cluster. When you get outside and you turn around and you look at the building that you were just in, which is basically like a big, smooth gray cube, up above it, you can see these huge multi-story arcing semicircles. Very similar to what you saw inside the room, made of some kind of stone or rough metal, and they're glowing a very dull orange. And it's now that you sort of realize that some of the heat is, yes, it's warm out, but some of it is also from whatever these things are glowing this dull orange and giving off a heat, even though they're huge and far away. They spin very silently, and looking at them in the night sky beyond them, you can see just on the other side of what you would think would be like the atmosphere of Rigamont A, you can see light puffs of asteroids as they disintegrate against the planet's gravity shields. And if you turn around and like look away from the building you just exited, and like down this hill and across the vista and then up again to the horizon and the sky, you probably would all feel a little grateful at understanding where the horizon is. This is the first natural horizon that you've seen since getting out of the Escher-esque and going into a small room. But then you would also see Rigamont B just occupying a huge chunk of the distant sky. You can see the planet that you were just on, and you can see the two planets' shared moons locked at the Lagrangian point between you and it. You can just see this moon sort of hovering between the two planets. If you look at the Deva, they're sort of following your eyes, watching you look up at these giant heat sinks, whatever they do, at the asteroids exploding against the gravity shields, at the stationary moon, and at Rigamont B, and they say, "It is incredible what the Anax is capable of. But, of course, it does take its toll. Reverence." And then they kind of pause for a minute, fold their hands in front of them, and then walk down the small hill. And as they walk down the small hill, they turn and they say, "I will take you to where you need to go to return home. Honesty." Do you follow?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a little bit of a walk. You can talk to the Deva if you want. Otherwise, they'll just take you to a little building with a stiffworks in it.
Vynos talks to them and says, "It is quite incredible what the Enox is capable of. I'm sure you get this question often, but what is the Enox?"
The Enox is a multidimensional being of great power. Truth.
Yes.
The Enox is also a trade lord that sees over the operations of Rigamont A and Rigamont B and looks after the well-being of its people. Respect.
The
Deva kind of gestures again in that wide, like sort of broad, welcoming gesture, kind of gestures at the sky and gestures at the court and at Rigamont B on the other side of the moon, and says, "The Saffron Anax holds it all together. Ah."
I see. Thank you for your counsel, for taking us back.
My pleasure.
What's Oat been thinking this whole time?
Oh, what are you gonna do? Pants-shitting terror. You agreed to go back and spy on the Co?
Oh, we're not supposed to be talking about it, really. It was supposed to be like on the down low. You know
Yeah. I can tell that this group is really good at keeping things on the down low.
You keep walking down this hill, and the buildings get smaller and more sparse. And the Deva walks towards a small black building that's wrapped in really thick vines. And you can see it's like nearly hidden in the sinking sunlight. It's very, very dark and set off to the side of the path that you're walking on. And they just push on this jet black door that's hard to see. And when it opens, you can see inside there's just a single stiffwork that's in there. And the Deva walks up to it and places their hand on it and thinks for a moment. And then you get a very familiar feeling of the room is suddenly larger. And the Deva says, "You may return to Spin. Gratitude."
And the gratitude to you.
Remy doesn't answer and just runs toward the stiffwork and jumps headfirst through it.
You land headfirst back in the familiar algae-scented atmosphere of Spin. In the near bays, there is no one around you.
He sighs deeply and relaxes for the first time in like 4 hours.
Merkis is clutching the straps of the backpack, like, thank you. And like very grateful, but then like clutches a little bit harder and goes, I wanted to drive.
Aww. Hey. Oh, you coming back to Spin?
Oh boy, am I. Are you kidding me? Yes.
You ever been there?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, lots. And considering that I do not have any money or possessions aside from the clothes on my back, yeah, I'm probably going to need to find somewhere to live.
You would like to be my roommate.
I would like to have that option available to consider at my leisure. Let's get me back to Spin right now.
So many questions for you. So I think this is going to be great. Let's go.
Let's go. And then we'll set a date to do the questions later.
You are now leaving Float City. Thanks for listening. If you want to support the show, get access to bonus one-off episodes, our bi-weekly post-episode chat show Fun Chatty, and our Discord, head on over to patreon.com/Fun City Ventures. And of course, thanks to all of our current patrons for help keeping this ship afloat. We'd also love it if you told your pals about the show, shared it on social media, drew us some fan art, gave us a rating on iTunes, or just came by to say hey on Twitter.
Hi, I'm Bijan Steven, and I play Remy Tester on Float City. You can find me online on Twitter at Bijan Steven, BIJANSTEPHEN, on Twitch at the same name, and on Instagram at Bijan Cakes, BIJAN Cakes.
I'm Jen Della Vega. I play Merkis and Meldar. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Randwiches. That's the word sandwiches, but replace the S with an R.
This is Shannon Odell. I play Beta Combat. You can find me on social at Showdell.
Hello, this is Nick Guercio, and I play Lux on Fun City and Vynos on Float City. You can find me at Nicholas Guercio on Twitter and in Guercio on Instagram. You spell Guercio Guercio.
I'm Taylor Moore, and I play all the cool, interesting characters. You can follow me at taylor.biz.
My name is Mike Rugnetta. I am your GM, and you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Mike Rugnetta. You can find the show on Twitter and Instagram at Fun City Ventures. Float City is played in a soon-to-be-released system called Still Fleet, which you can find on Twitter, Instagram, and Patreon at Still Fleet. This episode of Float City was recorded at various locations around Brooklyn, New York. It was produced, edited, and sound designed by me, Mike Rugnetta. Says Pixlriffs, happiness is not for us poor, crawling reptiles of the earth. Fun City's music is by Sam Tyndall, who has also just released a treasure trove of old work from his project Arpline that I highly recommend. Find it on streaming services and at the link in the show notes. Remy's flute playing is by Jake Fridkiss. Our art is by Tess Stone. Our Discord mods are Olivia Goulin, Kit Pulliam, and Kestrel. And the voice of Artemis is Molly Templeton.